Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to an MS Views and News educational program. And I like to say it like that because, well, once upon a time I was standing in front of a room doing that and running around and being able to, have a room full of people and be able to project myself very nicely to the back of the room. And now I'm going to get started doing this again because we're going to hopefully in the next couple of months start coming out of doing all virtual programs and do virtual and live in-person programs again as well. So I just wanted to let myself be loud. And you know that my name is Stuart Schlossman. I'm president and founder of MS Views and News. And today's program is called Chair Pilates, all right? And this is supported by MS Views and News. And our guest speaker today is Bri Rea. I don't say her last name correctly, but I'll get into that in a minute. We have a couple different people here today. We have one of our staff members that are here today, and her name is Jill, and she's going to be helping out with the program by asking all the virtual questions that are asked. When I say virtual questions, at the top of your screen on the right side, on the top of the toolbar, there's an orange box with an arrow in it. And if you click on that, you can type out your questions, all right? We're not going to respond or we're not going to ask any of those questions during the program. So Bri is going to be able to speak the entire program, and then we will get into the questions. And when we get into those questions, many people had, when they were registering online, had already written out questions. So I will be asking all those questions first, and then Jill will come on, and she will be responding or asking the questions that are being asked by the attendees. So again, if you have any questions during the program, please type them out, and we will get to them later on. Also, I want to let everybody know that these programs, every one of these virtual programs that we're doing and the in-person programs that we do, we always have Bill. Okay, everybody knows Bill, all right? Bill is my sound and video guy. Bill is owner and president of Orlando Production, and Bill likes to do all these events, so this is what we do. So again, we have, as our presenter today, we have Bri Rea. And Bri will be speaking, what about? Well, Chair Pilates, all right? Please remember that this is a demonstration only. This is not a class, all right? Which is why we haven't promoted as a class type event. So for those that are online today and thought that you were in a classroom situation, we really are not. We are hoping to be able to do that in the future with Bri, but for that, we're gonna convert to the Zoom platform because she needs to see you as you see her, so she's making sure that you are doing everything correctly. All right. So that's something that we're looking forward to possibly or hopefully doing in the near future. All right. In the meantime, please know that this program, like all of our programs, is video recorded. There may be some of you on here today that have never watched an MS Views and News virtual program or other programs in the past. We do video record everything, and everything goes onto our YouTube channel. All right. So I don't want to take up any more of your time, all right? I just want to get this thing started already. So I'm going to read a little bit about Bri. So Bri has always been fascinated and amazed at what the body is capable of doing. After a bad ankle break left her at the mercy of surgeons, doctors, physical therapists, and personal trainers, she became obsessed with learning as much as she could about healing, realigning the body, correcting imbalances, and moving her body towards a full recovery. She's been practicing Pilates since 2016 and studied under master trainer Marlena Griffin in San Diego, where she passed the 500-hour comprehensive apparatus Pilates program with flying colors and has been teaching Pilates since 2018. She is forever a student when it comes to improving her skills as an instructor to ensure each student walks away feeling stronger and more aware of what their body is capable of doing. And I'm not going to keep reading Bri's bio. We're just going to let her get started. So again, I will be back when she is finished doing her presentation, and then we will get into any questions that you all have as well. So take it away, Bri.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stuart. So as he was just introducing me as, my name is Bree, and I currently live in Greenville, South Carolina. And this slide right here, all of my contact information will be at the end of the slide as well. So you don't have to worry about jotting everything down right yet. Currently, I work as a clinical Pilates specialist at a physical therapy clinic called Bodyworks Women's Health and Wellness. And if you wanted any more information about that, the link is right there below. I also teach online chair Pilates classes, which is where I met Jill. And this is a platform called Core to Core. Regularly, we meet every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. for about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on everybody's time. Right now, we're meeting for an hour. Actually, tomorrow there'll be a special where we're doing it tomorrow at 12. We'll go over that at the end of the presentation though. So for today, for some of the demo moves, some optional but useful toys that you may need will be a squishy ball or a pillow. And when I say a squishy ball, it's about 9 inches in diameter, or your pillow, which can be anything like a throw pillow on your couch or even a bedroom pillow that you sleep on. And then a stretchy band or a long sleeve shirt. So that stretchy band will be anything long that you can put around your foot and hold with your hands, or that long sleeve shirt can be something that you like roll up. You take the sleeves of the shirt and you kind of like, almost like you're about to like slingshot somebody with it. Next slide. There you go. Okay, so let's go over what is the history of Pilates, and it'll help you to get a better understanding for what it is. And it actually is a person and a system. Pilates was invented by a man named Joseph Pilates, who was born actually on my birthday, December 9th, 1883 in Germany. As a child, he was actually very sick. He had asthma, he had rheumatic fever, he even had rickets, which is a vitamin D deficiency where you get like the bowing of your legs. But because of his conditions, he studied exercise and he was so determined to overcome his illnesses that he eventually became a trainer for people. And this is where he moved to England in 1912 to train others for optimal performance. If you're a history or you know anything about history, World War I started around that time. So in 1914, he was retained to an internment camp. And this is where he actually refined his skills to end up being what Pilates is today. Back in the day, it was called contrology. So if you break down that word control and ology meaning the study of, it was the study of control. So it really takes that mind-body connection to really initiate the movements correctly. It started with mat exercises, but as we'll continue talking about it, it did eventually come into progressing into various apparatuses like the reformer, the Wunda chair, the exo chair, and the Cadillac. And we'll go over that next slide of what they actually look like. So right here we have our reformer. And it's very similar to like a moving bed. The tension comes from springs that are underneath of the bed, and the springs all have different load and tension. And then next up, you have your Wunda chair or your exo chair. And he invented this actually when he lived in New York because of the small apartment sizes. He still wanted his clients and patients to be able to move effectively and efficiently without having a big reformer taking up a lot of space in their apartments. And then finally, the Cadillac, or as some people have called it before, the torture device. It does kind of look like a medieval torture device, but because of all of the different towers and tops of the Cadillac and the bottom of the Cadillac and the different angles that you can get into for different exercises, it really is like the prime or top level of Pilates exercises. So let's talk about Joe and just who he was as a person. So on the left, you have Joseph Pilates at the age of 57. So as you can see here, no indication of rickets, no indication of any kind of like health impairments or anything. Like he looks like a very healthy man. And then on the right-hand side, you have him at 82. This was 1 year before he died. He died at 83 and still in like tip-top shape. This is an early invention of the reformer. So this was actually how he helped all of his other internment camp people, patients that he worked with at the internment camp, where he would take broken springs from mattresses to create resistance. So all of his patients who were bedridden and couldn't get up to sit or to stand, they were still able to work on their health and work on their mind and work on their body. So this is an early example of how the reformer came to be. This is an example of how the Cadillac can be used. So seeing how the resistance can be applied to not only the upper body, but also the lower body. And then just as I said before, you don't have to have equipment to do Pilates. It started off as a mat repertoire. And this was how he taught people back in England when he lived in New York. He made it to where you had to have the foundational mat exercises learned to a T before you moved on to work on any of the apparatuses. So let's talk about what is not Pilates. Pilates is not yoga, although they do have a lot of similarities. There are a lot of differences. Yoga is primarily for stretching the body, and Pilates is stretching and strengthening the body. People say that it's just a core work for Pilates, which is yes, but it's not 100% the case. Even when you're doing an upper body workout or an upper body movement versus a lower body movement, you are still engaging the core. A lot of people may say that Pilates is easy. That's also not the case. If you're doing it correctly, Pilates will always be challenging, no matter what level you are, whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced. And to counteract that, Pilates is not hard. It can be as challenging as you make it to be. A lot of people will also say that, oh, Pilates is just for women. And that stems from a lot of what maybe we see in social media. On social media platforms, you see a lot of women or a certain type of body doing Pilates, but that's not the case. Everybody's body will benefit from Pilates. And the reason why is because of that brain to body connection that you have to have in order to do the movements correctly and to feel the movements making progress over time. And as we've been discussing, it can only be done with equipment. That's not the case at all. Just like we'll be showing today for some of the demo moves, you can do it in your chair, you can do it on the bed. Even just breathing is considered Pilates. So what is Pilates? It's a series of low impact exercises to help strengthen the muscles around the joint while simultaneously lengthening the tissues within the body. We can move in these ways to help with posture, alignment, core strength, and overall body control. So if you think about wanting to sit up taller or stand taller or being able to move from that sitting to standing position with the right alignment, with the overall body control, this is where Pilates can help you. So these motions that are centered around the breath are also helping to control the body, and we'll get into that here shortly. And finally, connecting the mind and body together to help increase awareness and self-mastery of your movements during each session and in life. So ultimately, Pilates, what is it? It is a way of life. So everything that you do in a Pilates session can ultimately be learned so you can apply it functionally into your everyday life. So the benefits of Pilates with multiple sclerosis stems from the 6 main principles of Pilates. So the first one and the most important one is the breath. When it comes to Pilates breath, you will always be breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. The centering of Pilates comes from the center of your body, or the placement from ribs to hips, that placement there. It also stems from the control of that mind to body connection, and the concentration that it takes to do 8 or 9 or 10 reps of a movement with the precision that it takes to flow through each movement. And so with these 6 principles, you want to think of them as like an onion. If you have layers to an onion, you have layers to a Pilates movement. So you have to make sure you have the breath down, you have the center down, you have the control, the precision, and that concentration and flow. So why is the breath so important? And why is it the most important part of Pilates? And it's because it supplies oxygen to the brain and to the body. And what that gives you is more energy. So a lot of the times after I'm done teaching a class with some of my MS clients is that they say that they just have more energy after class, rather than a workout where you're exerting yourself so much to the point where you're just like, okay, like I just need to rest for an hour. Typically, if you're doing a Pilates class with the right instructor, with the right kind of tools and movements, then you should have the energy afterwards to continue about your day. So let's go over, go back a little bit. Let's go over chest versus belly breath, and just placing your hands on your lap. I want you to just maybe even close the eyes and take that breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And so just noticing where the breath is going. And so when I say, where is the breath going? Yes, it's going in through the nose, out through the mouth, Bree. But is it going into the upper part of your chest where you feel your shoulders rising and falling? Or can we try to bring that breath into the belly where the ribs and the belly expand outward like a tent? And this is where our tools that we can use for ourselves, that long sleeve shirt or that band, or even if you don't have any tools, let's just take our hands to the rib cage, put them on the sides of your body, and whether that be one hand or both hands, take them to the sides of your ribs, and taking that big breath in through the nose and try to push your ribs out against your hands. And as you exhale out through the mouth, try to pull the ribs together away from your hands. And try that 2 more times. And so as you're doing those belly breaths, what that does is it helps to stimulate what's called your vagus nerve. And that is our longest nerve that runs through the body. It connects from the brain, next slide, to the digestive tract. And that nerve goes all the way through your diaphragm. So that big breath that you're taking in and out will actually stimulate or turn on that vagus nerve. And what it does is it helps to turn on what's called your rest and digest state of the body, or your parasympathetic state. So that helps the relaxation of the body as well as the contraction of the muscles. So if you can really relax into the state that you're in right here, whether you're seated or laying down, then you can get that whole body integration with the movements and with the breath. And so finally, that breath helps us to stay present within the moment. And it all kind of stems back to that concentration, that control. If you're present with the breath, then you're not thinking about what's happening in the next hour, or what happened last hour, last week, or tomorrow, or the next day. You're present right here, right now. So the next principle of Pilates is the center of the body, or centering of the body. So if you can think of the center of the body and just what does that mean to you? Where is your center of the body? And so that center of the body is also called the powerhouse. The powerhouse of your body brings stability within your body. It's the connecting piece between your upper and your lower extremities. So if you think about like the upper and the lower part of your body, what is that connecting piece? And that's your core. So let's go over what is the core. And I'm going to be speaking more in layman terms. I'm going to say the anatomical versions of them, but also these anatomical versions everybody has. So we're going to get a little silly here in a little bit. So what is the core? We have a set of muscles called the pelvic floor, and those set of muscles are right in between the legs, and they connect from the pubic bone to your tailbone, and they rest right underneath, kind of like a hammock. But the one way to stimulate your pelvic floor is to think about your butthole. So if you think about your butthole and lifting it up, then you can think about lifting your pelvic floor. And when we talk about our transverse abdominis, we're talking about the muscles that literally wrap around from the back of your spine like you're wearing a corset all the way to the front of your belly, right where your belly button is. And it does wrap in a very big manner.
Welcome to the webinar.
So when we're talking also about the back of our core, we have tiny little muscles that connect in between all of the vertebrae of the spine, the multifidus. So if we think of our spine as a bridge and the multifidus muscles as suspension cables, then we can think about those suspension cables helping to support the bridge in order to keep it nice and straight. Although the spine won't ever be actually straight, everyone does have like a natural curvature in the spine, but to be able to pull yourself up into better posture, that's where the multifidus is an important piece of the core. And then finally, we have the diaphragm, and that is that piece of muscle that rests right underneath of your rib cage, so that when you're breathing in, it actually pushes down, and as you breathe out, it pulls back up. So if we think about our core or our powerhouse, next slide. We think about our core, our powerhouse, the picture to the right, we have all of those muscles that we just went over, the pelvic floor, the transverse abdominis, the multifidus, and the diaphragm. Next slide, we'll go over and how it looks like a box. So that powerhouse of stability comes from that box, from front to back, to side. And as you're breathing, so take those practice breaths again, where your hands are on your rib cage, and expand your box out as you breathe in. And as you exhale, pull that box in and feel how the center of your body maybe gets a little bit more toned, or a little bit tighter, or a little bit more muscular engagement. But the one thing that is most important is that pelvic floor to help support that bottom of the box, so that we don't have anything falling out. So when we talk about the control of Pilates and the necessity that it needs for our movements, so the goal is to create a full body experience, and that's to help to prevent any risk of injury or risk of re-injury, if that's what a goal in mind may be for you. So that mind to body connection, we want to think about how can you move your body from your powerhouse. So when I talk about like lifting your arm out to the side, a lot of people may say like, oh, yep, I can lift my arm up and out to the side. But can you lift your arm out to the side by using your core to stabilize and to keep everything else within the body still and stable in order to mobilize from the shoulder? When you're thinking about the leg, can you slide the leg out in front of you in order to maintain that stability around the core or the powerhouse? So the reason why control is so important is because it helps to improve the neuromuscular system and the balance within the body. So when we think about moving any kind of muscle, we have the nerves that connect to the muscles, and those nerves and the muscles together, the practice of that control will eventually help us to balance out our bodies. So when we think about, okay, like if one side of my body is a little bit harder to move than my other side of my body, we have a stronger side and we have a more challenging side. It's best to practice with your stronger side first, so that that neuromuscular kind of learning facilitates the movement on your weaker or more challenged side. And it all comes with practice, practice, practice. So concentration, our fourth part of our Pilates principles. When we're talking about adding together the breath, the center of your body, or the centering of your body, the control, that's where the concentration really comes into play. So being present in the moment at the task at hand. The breath will help to anchor you to the present moment, to the right here, to the right now, that centering of your body or the core, and finding your butthole lifting, your belly button pulling in, your ribs wrapping around, all of that coming from the centering piece of Pilates. And then the control of your movement. So once you have that core control, then can you control the movement of your arm up and out, or out to the side, or your leg out to the side. Next slide. And so now I'm going to disconnect my my cable real quick, go back, and just help to demo a move right here. So if you have your stretchy band or your long sleeve shirt, we're going to place that band right underneath of our foot. And so if you're in that seated position, on the edge of your chair, and that band or long sleeve shirt is underneath of your foot, I'd like for you to keep your hands close to your side here and get a firm grip on the edge of your band there. And so now taking that big breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, to help to pull the pelvic floor up, or your butthole, or to pull the belly button in, and to feel the ribs coming together along the center of your body. Then on your next inhale, lengthening the leg away, and then exhaling to pull that leg back in. Inhale to lengthen the leg away. And exhale to resist that band or shirt, pulling the leg back in, okay? So just as I said before, try it first on your stronger side and give about 4, 5, or 6 reps, depending on how your body feels. And unfortunately, I can't see you, so I can't give you any kind of feedback. And this is why working with a Pilates instructor is going to be beneficial for you. So listening to your body is going to be very important here. But as you press that leg away and pull it back in, try to notice if there's any other kind of movement that might be happening within the body. And that's where the stability of that powerhouse comes in. As you're straightening that leg out and away, the body may want to move back. And that's something that we're trying to prevent from that core happening. We're trying to, it's not that we're trying to isolate the movement, but that we're trying to control the movement with the full body experience. All right. And if you did that on one side, also make sure you do that on the other side and try it out and see how the differences are. We'll stay right here on this slide just for a moment so we can go over neuroplasticity. So the reason why concentration is such an important piece of Pilates is because what you can do is help to build up the neuroplasticity, and that's the brain's ability to create new pathways with new experiences. So if you think about if you've ever moved to a new address or to a new location, like I actually just did a couple months ago, then it took me a little bit. Like I had to have my GPS up wherever I went to like make sure I knew I was getting to the right place at the right time. But now that I've lived here for a couple of months, I understand like, okay, it used to take me 10 minutes to get to this one location. It takes me about 15 now, so I have to plan accordingly. So those new pathways that are in my brain have been kind of hacked away. If you think of the pathways in your brain as kind of like a deep jungle of kind of brush, then your new experiences of working with Pilates is you kind of hacking away new pathways. So it doesn't happen overnight when you're doing Pilates, the connection to the mind to body. So be kind to yourself. Try not to get frustrated with the movements and saying like, oh, well, I can't get it now, so I'm not going to be able to get it later. That's where the neuroplasticity comes in. That's where you can like start to hack away those pathways and get a little bit more fine-tuned with it, so that eventually your pathways, instead of hacking away big brush, you can start to pick up little twigs and start to refine your movements a little bit more. So now as we go over precision of the movement, I want you to become aware of where your body is in time and space, and this is called proprioception. So if you were to turn off all the lights in your room and I were to ask you to touch your nose with your right or left hand, you would be able to do so with eyes closed with no problem. Now, when we talk about interoception, that is the inner knowledge of what's going on within your body. So what is your heart rate right now? What is your respiratory rate right now? How fast are you breathing? Are you still breathing into the belly, in and out through the nose and through the mouth? Or do you feel the clothes that are on your body? So this awareness of the body as a system, as an entire piece to the puzzle, brings the awareness and the precision to the movements. So the interoception, or for example, that respiratory rate, as you're breathing in and out, you'll start to set the flow to the movements. And this is where we start to break down the difference between like functional and structural movements. So with our bodies, we are only as strong as the weakest link in the chain. So if we think of our more dominant side versus our more challenged side, then technically we're only as strong as our more challenged side. So this is where we can start to bring more functionality to both sides of the body to help strengthen that more challenged side of the body. And that's really the keystone to the precision of Pilates. And then finally, my favorite piece of Pilates is the flow. And this will be another demo move that we'll be doing together. And this is where ease, grace, and fluidity can help you to find flow within the body from one movement to the next. And just like I said before at the beginning of the presentation, Pilates is a lot like onions, where there's layers. So we'll be peeling back the different layers of the movements and working towards a more complex movement. So I know that when working with MS students or patients or clients, sometimes the movements may get to be a little too fast, or maybe we're moving at a pace that's not right for you. So just make sure you're listening to your body and that you're exploring your body. I like to think of it as like a conversation between your mind and muscles, between your brain and your body. And this will help you to feel what you're capable of, and also to help you feel more empowered by taking control back over your own body again, back over your own life. So if you can stay on this slide just real quick, I'm gonna. All right, so if we're demoing together, take your ball or your pillow in between your legs. I'm just gonna demo it from the side here. So as you are having that ball in between, as you have that ball in between the legs, I want you to feel how the ball or the pillow is like almost kind of pushing your legs out to the side. So if that pillow is between your legs, you're inhaling to let the legs open out, but not to let the ball drop, and exhale to squeeze the ball or the pillow in. The feet are planted flat here, so as you're inhaling to let the ball open the legs out, exhale to squeeze. Okay, so this is the first layer. This is all that the legs are going to be doing here. Think of the legs as the lungs. So you're opening to inhale, exhale out through the mouth to close. I'm just helping to demo it with my hands, but here in a moment, we're gonna bring the hands down onto the thighs and put that pressure into the thighs so that maybe you feel a little bit of the back of the arms starting to activate and starting to light up, almost like the lights behind me. There's a little bit of light coming into those back of the arms. So try to imagine that the center of your body, as you're breathing in and out, is helping you to also sit up taller, to press down further through those hands. And so now as we continue to open and close those legs to squeeze in against that ball, do we notice that the inner thighs are starting to also feel active? And those inner thighs directly come up into that pelvic floor. They connect to that pelvic floor. So maybe you're feeling a deeper contraction through the center of your body. So as you're exhaling, that butthole is lifting, belly button pulling in, ribs wrapping around. And as you inhale, try not to, just challenge yourself, try not to let them just relax everything. So as you're trying to sit up nice and tall, as you're inhaling and exhaling, then I want you to add a layer, now bringing your attention to your dominant side. So I'm going to be moving my right arm. As you exhale to close the legs together, lift your right arm up, out, and in front of you. Inhale to lower it down. Exhale to lift up, out in front of you. Okay, so that's one of our additional layers here. As that arm is lifting up, if it feels good to leave it up, then I want you to start to lift the other arm up next to it. So now maybe your weaker side or your more challenged side can kind of come to meet that stronger side and say like, oh yeah, me too. There we go. So now both sides are maybe feeling or looking even with each other. And it's okay if it doesn't come all the way up, doing what works best for your body. And then eventually, from there, both arms stay up and out on your exhale. And now as you inhale, leaning yourself back, if this feels good for your body. And then exhaling to bring yourself back up again. Inhaling to lean back, still maintaining that core control, that pelvic floor lift, that belly button drawing up and in. And inhaling to lean back. Okay, so noticing how all of these layers, we're still working with the whole body here. And this is like the beauty of Pilates. Are you still aware of the legs contracting in and out? Are you still aware of the arms staying in that lifted position? And this is where it gets fun. And maybe we can find more flow here as one arm lifts a little higher and the other arm lowers down. And then as you inhale to bring yourself forward, maybe switching one arm up as the other one goes down. And this is how we can get into the next picture on the slide of where you're leaning back. You're controlling that hinge back from the body and pulling yourself into a very controlled state without having to be like, how did she get there? Okay? And so that's where the control, the precision, the center of the body, the awareness of the body comes into play here. So let me just reconnect that. My favorite, oops, sorry, hold on one sec. My favorite word is noticing. So what do we notice? And this is going to help to wrap everything up and kind of bring it all together. What do you notice happening within the body? And just close the eyes here. What do you notice within the body? Does one side feel tighter than the other side? Or does one side feel softer than the other side? What do you notice outside of the body? And that may be other noises in another room that you may hear, or it could be anything like the clothes on your skin that maybe you didn't notice before, but now you're starting to bring your awareness there. What do you notice about the mind? Where is the mind? Is it racing, or does it feel like you're here, right now? Where is the body? What do you notice about the body? Does it feel like it's ready for some more movement? Does it feel like these breaths that you've been taking feel good and juicy and yummy for you? And where is the breath? What do you notice about the breath? Is the breath still pretty shallow where your shoulders are lifting up and down next to the ears or down away from the ears? Or are you still able to take those big belly breaths to remember to stimulate that vagus nerve to relay back up to the brain? It's okay, we're chill, we're relaxing, that rest and digest state. Do you notice if there are parts of the body that are tense? I know maybe one side feels more tense than the other. So just notice that, and just bringing your awareness to that one side of the body versus the other can also help you to bring awareness to where the body may be soft. And that can be anything from right to left side of the body. It could also be from front to back side of the body. So if we don't have that good posture alignment, you might feel soft in the front and maybe a little tense in the back. And that awareness may help you to sit up a little taller, to feel that evenness from front to back of the body, from side to side of the body. So that wraps up my presentation for today. I just want to say a big thank you to Stuart and Jill for having me. The next slide does have all of my contact information. Thank you so much for everybody who joined me for this presentation, but most importantly, thank yourself for setting aside the time to learn a little bit more about Pilates and how it can benefit you. It benefits everybody, but it's a really great tool to use for MS to really help that mind-body connection, to help you build those new neural pathways to help and keep movement within your life.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Everybody applaud. I can hear you. Hey, give her a round of applause. Perfect. All right. For those that joined us a little bit late, maybe you came in while Bree was already doing the demonstration. I want to let you know that we are recording this, all right? This will appear on our YouTube channel in a few days. If you do not know how to get to the MS Views and News YouTube channel, well, you visit our website, or you look at our blog, or you open up our newsletters, because we always have links in our email newsletters, and you can find the links to our YouTube channel. Or if you want, you could just go to YouTube and type in MS Views and News, and it'll take you to our YouTube channel. Okay, and there's a lot of different playlists of our different programs that are there. This program will not be on there for at least 5 days, maybe 6 days, all right? We did 3 events this week, and those other events have to get posted as well. So those will have to go on there first, and then we will publish this one too. But it takes a few days for us to look at these, for us to edit whatever has to come out, like a accidental person speaking and the mic not knowing that it was open like earlier. Okay, so I wanted to let you know that. Also, this program today was never meant to be a class. And some of you that did come on late, others that were on earlier, thought that it was a class type of thing. It was never intended to be a class. It was just a demonstration. And for that, we thank Bree. So in a few months from now, Bree will be able to hopefully do some programs with us where we will switch to Zoom so that way she could see you and you could see her, okay? And she'll be able to work with you and she'll be able to see if anybody's doing anything wrong. But that we'll make announcements about as we go forward. Right now, though, we have questions, all right? And I'm going to be asking questions that we received when people were registering to be on here today. And then Jill will be going through whatever questions people are asking online. And so, again, for those that came in late, at the top of the toolbar is a orange rectangle with an arrow in there. If you would click on that, you will then be able to type in your questions, okay? And for those that don't know, well, my name is Stuart, and we are going forward, all right? So the first question that I have for you, Bree, is how do Pilates and yoga differ from each other?
Yeah, so yoga and Pilates, they differ from each other in they are very similar, and that's where a lot of confusion comes in. But the difference between the two is more of like a spiritual mindset when it comes to yoga. Yoga focuses a lot on flexibility and helping to open the tissue around the joint and in the muscles themselves. But the difference with Pilates is that flexibility or lengthening the muscles or the body is one of the key components, but so is strengthening the body. So there are different kind of pathways with yoga. You have like vinyasa, or you have hatha, or you have yin. All of those different ones also have different types of goals set in mind. But primarily yoga is about the flexibility of the body, how to stretch it out. With Pilates and working with the body, the mind-body connection, you can get more strength and length simultaneously. And with Pilates, there's also more of a rep range that you'll be doing. So if there's one movement that we're doing, you'll probably do it within a rep range of anywhere from like 5 to 10, maybe 12 times.
Okay, thank you. All right, next, does Pilates have any similar benefits to yoga?
Yes, yeah. So the similar benefits to yoga would also be the stretching or the lengthening of the tissue.
Okay, great. A person writes, I had spinal fusion this past September and also have replaced hips. Is Pilates contraindicated?
Not if you're working with a good Pilates instructor. So Pilates was meant for everybody. As I went over in the presentation, Pilates worked with bedridden patients who couldn't even get out of bed. So there's a lot of different movements, different techniques that can be used, that can be applied to everybody's body with a Pilates repertoire. So if a spinal fusion is something that may have happened, and I don't know your history or anything, but typically like rotation is contraindicated as well as any kind of extension or flexion. So, but moving within your range of motion into like a hinge back where you're leaning back without opening up through the front of the body or curving back down through the back of the body would be a good movement for you. And that's all coming from the stability of the core. And there doesn't even have to be any kind of like leaning from side to side. It can be a matter of just connecting to the core to find that stability and then moving the muscles or the extremities from there.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. How do we know if we're in the proper positions to do the chair Pilates?
Yep, so that's why a Zoom meeting would be best, whether if it's a virtual class that you're taking with somebody or working one-on-one with an instructor. So having that visual feedback to where the instructor can give you the verbal cues needed, and also where you can ask the questions of like, is this right? Does this look okay? I'm feeling this, or this. Is that okay? Should I be feeling that? So really, it is a conversation that needs to be had throughout the entire class of like, okay, I'm feeling it here, but I want you to feel it maybe a little bit more here. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. How does a person prevent themselves from overdoing it? How do they know
Listening.
too much?
Listening to your body. So definitely making sure that the temperature conditions are right. Never working out in a condition in a state where it's too hot for your body. But again, that's a wonderful side effect of Pilates, is because the more you do it, the more you get to know your body. I would typically start off with about 2 to 3 layers of a movement when I first started working with MS clients, of if we worked with a movement and then we only really layer 1 or 2 more movements into that movement, and then doing reps from there, about 5 to 8 reps from there. Listening to your body, though, is going to be your best friend. You know your body best. Unfortunately, I'm not a mind reader. I wish that I could be, because then I would be like the best teacher ever. But yeah, knowing your body best is where a side effect of Pilates can help you out with that.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. How do you know when to push through, though? I know it's similar to what you were just talking about, but how do you know, like a person who has not done any exercise, how do they know how to push themselves further along rather than just stopping?
I guess it depends on what your goal is. Why would you need to push yourself through? Maybe ask yourself that question first. Why would you want to push yourself through? Because if you've ever had a situation where you have pushed yourself through and maybe you've needed the rest of the day to recover from that, or maybe even the next day to recover from that, asking yourself, like, do I really want to push myself through, or would I rather take the tiny steps forward to build a strong foundation, and then to get to where, like, my goal may be of lifting my leg or reaching my arm out to the side or feeling that connection within my body. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not something that you need to or should want to push yourself through. Although it does sound like Pilates is a very fun modality of exercise. It's a full body experience. So there's never really going to be a need where you're like, okay, just like 3 more reps here, just 3 more. It's something that you need to listen to your body for.
Awesome. All right. So another person is asking, what can one do when exercising and one side of the body is much weaker than the other?
Yeah, so I mentioned this in my presentation, and from what I found is that working with the stronger side first, and there's research to back this up too, and the working with the stronger side actually has like a hormonal and a neuromuscular effect on the more challenged side. So say, for example, I'll mirror you right here, my right side. If my right side is my stronger side and reaching that arm out to the side is good, we're fine, that feels great, and I'm able to reach it out to shoulder height, but my other side, I'm only able to reach it out here, that's fine. But finding that control of the right side lifting up and saying, okay, this is how it's going to happen on the left side. You have to like turn on the brain and say, like, okay, this is how it's going to happen. This is how we're going to lift it. And eventually you'll be able to lift it up. It might not happen right away. And that's, again, where you have to be kind to yourself. You have to realize that it's not going to be a one-stop shop. But over time, with the practicing with those neural pathways, that neuroplasticity that I talked about in the presentation, over time, that will happen. And you'll start to build new pathways into these new experiences of movement.
Okay, cool. All right, next, another person is asking if the exercises in the chair are just as beneficial as doing it on the floor.
They can be. It's really, it depends on your body. And that's where, again, working with a Pilates instructor, somebody who knows the difference between your body on the chair and your body on the floor, is going to make a difference. So there will be times when, like, we can't stretch our legs all the way out as if we were standing if you're on the chair, but you can if you're all the way down onto the ground. So I know it sounds like such a vague answer, but it really just depends on what the goal is and what the movement that you're trying to attain, you're trying to mimic.
Is it dangerous to do Pilates? Do people get injured doing these things?
Not typically, not if you're doing it right.
So we can easily say that because people are asking if there's any way they could get injured doing this. So, but I think you just answered it. All right. Next, what is your suggestion if someone cannot do a pose or feels just uncomfortable in doing it in front of others?
Working one-on-one with an instructor is probably your best bet. It is your best bet. If you're uncomfortable working in front of other people, that may be something that you just need to practice one-on-one with an instructor. Or if there's something that you're not sure about, if you're feeling it correctly, that's when working one-on-one with an instructor can really help you to have that conversation with the instructor and ask them like, okay, I'm feeling it here, but you said I'm feeling it here. And that's like a conversation that Jill and I always have constantly when we're working together is, like, okay, Jill, are you feeling it on your inside thighs? Or are you feeling on your outside thighs? And typically the answer should always be both because we're making it that full body experience. And sometimes she'll feel it in one, but not the other. Or maybe you'll feel it on one side of the body, but not the other. And that's where we kind of get that and shift the focus or the intention of the movement towards that side or towards those pieces of the body.
Great, thank you. All right, I have one more question for you, and then we're going to switch it over to Jill. There are people asking questions online, which is very nice. Okay, and for anybody else, yes, ask your questions. When else are you going to? All right. So I have one last question, and this is very interesting. This person writes, I need to figure out how I can do any exercises that will help strengthen my core. I'm a spastic quadriplegic in a power chair. My core keeps getting weaker and weaker. I always lean to the right side. It's hard to keep straightened upward. What can you tell me?
The breath. The breath is going to be your best friend. So when working with the breath, if you can imagine that square, that box that I showed in the PowerPoint, breathing deeply in and out, you'll notice that even as you're breathing in, you might help to like lift yourself up and pull away from that right side leaning position. It might not be as drastic as lifting up and like straightening the spine, but that can help to start to train those muscles to pull up out of that constant compensation pattern or habit that the body has started to take over.
Okay, great. So now I'm going to pass the baton over to Jill, who's going to continue the questions for you, and I will be back, everybody. I will be back. Thank you.
I know you spoke about this, but I have a question that says, are there any particular amount of reps to start with?
Start small to begin. Try out the rep ranges from like 4 to 6 to begin, and start with your stronger side first. So as you're starting to move through the different movements, start with about 4 to 6 reps, and then try it again on the more challenged side. And if that feels good, if you're still feeling good, then try sets of those reps. So if that didn't feel like you were challenged enough, then you can do 2 or 3 sets of those reps, so that eventually 3 sets would be equal to 12 in the end.
Is it like when you're exercising with weights or something and they say push until you know that's the last one you can possibly do? Would you do that in Pilates as well? Work until your limit?
Sort of, because it's a full body experience. So as I was demoing at the end of the class, like the pressing of the hands down into the lap, the sliding or the movement of the legs in towards each other, by the end of our rep range, you want to make sure that you're feeling everything. So you want to make sure that like as your arms are lifting up, that you're not just lifting the arm up, but you're reaching it out in front of you, and that you feel the legs pulling in towards each other enough to where not that you're straining, but like because you're almost like shaking a little bit because of that tonality from the core, from the upper body to the lower body. Everything's working together.
Okay, great. I have a question from Sandy. She says, can she obtain services through her VA?
I'm not sure about that. Maybe that would be a question for the VA. There are a lot of online platforms nowadays that you can check out. For example, the website that I listed at the end of the presentation, the core2core.com, has a lot of movement teachers like Pilates instructors like myself who offer online classes. But I'm not sure if it is covered through the VA. I'm sorry, I don't have a direct answer for that.
Okay, I have another question. Is there a book or a DVD for chair Pilates?
I'm sure that there is, or that there are. I know that there's a lot of great resources on YouTube. So you might not even have to buy anything. There are some great resources of other, MS platforms that they've recorded videos of chair Pilates, and some are with props, some are without props, just like we use today, whether it's a shirt or a band or a pillow or a ball, or even a yoga block that you can use.
Okay, great. Karen is asking, and I'm not sure if you would know this either, is there a good app on your phone to use?
That's also a good question. There are a lot of Pilates mat classes that I know of, not off the top of my head, I'm sorry, but specifically for chair Pilates, none that come to mind right away that I've seen.
Okay, thanks. Cynthia wants to know, is your Saturday 10 a.m. class for beginners?
It is for all levels. It is for, and I make sure that it's for my MS clients that have been with me for a long time now, and we work on what their goals are. So right now, the people that I work with, we're working on balance and transitioning from a seated state up into a standing state. So can you do that with your feet wide? Can you do that with your feet staggered? Can you do that with your feet narrow? And can you do that with your feet staggered in another position? So working with that lower body to help to support the foundation of the body, all coming again from the core, the center of the body.
I have a question from Steve, who wants to know the best time of day to do Pilates.
Oh, that's a good question. I prefer to do it in the morning because it does give a lot of energy. You always start a practice with finding the breath and finding the center of the body. And even if you have time for just 5 minutes of breathing or 10 minutes of breathing, that can still be Pilates. And that oxygen, that oxygenated blood that's running through your body, through your brain, through your muscles, can help you feel more energized, and in my opinion, feel more ready for your day.
Great. He's also asking, how many days per week should you do Pilates?
I would start off with about 2 days a week and then grade it from there. So 2 days a week, about every 2 days, starting with that. So like, for example, if you wanted to start it on a Tuesday and then try it again on a Friday, or if you did it on a Saturday, try it again on a Wednesday, and then adjusting the times of the week from there. So if you wanted to do it 3 times a week, try a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Leveling up to 4, 5, 6, even 7 times a week is definitely possible, but I wouldn't recommend it right out the gates.
Would you repeat the same workout, or would you vary them up?
Pilates can be varied up, and I never teach the same class twice. So when doing Pilates, it's about that flow and how do you explore the movements of the body, while kind of piecing together all of those principles that we talked about, the breath, the control, the centering. It is more, of course, if you ask a more classical Pilates teacher, which I'm not, I'm more contemporary. If you ask a more classical Pilates teacher, they will say it is the same class every time. And those are the original mat exercises that Pilates invented with for contrology. But in my opinion, the body is not the same every day. And so your goals may not be the same every day. So the movements should also reflect what your goals are and how your body feels.
Great. Good answer. Thank you so much for that. I'm getting lots of kudos about what a great presentation this was. And want to thank you for that. And then people are asking, and Bill, maybe you can help us. People are asking for the slide with Bree's contact information to be put up again. Okay, and now we're going to go back to Stuart. He has some more things to talk to you about. Thanks, Bree.
Thank you, Jill.
There we go. All right, I just wanted to say thank you to Bree again. I want to thank everybody for being online. And I want to let you know something, Bree. We really need to teach the male audience, or there is no male audience. There's one other guy on here today other than
Oh my
me,
gosh.
right? And that's it, right? So we really need to let the guys know that Pilates is for them too, all right?
Yes.
And as I said at the beginning, before the program began, I had no idea, I definitely thought it was something for women to do. All right. So
No, everybody has a pelvic floor. We all have a core. We all need to work on regaining strength to that powerhouse for sure.
you don't find too many guys saying, "Oh, I got to do my pelvic floor exercises." It just doesn't work that way. So, we don't think about this. All right. All right. So anyway, I do want to let everybody know again, this will be on our YouTube channel in, like, say, less than a week. All right. And we will send out an email to everybody that was on today's program to let you all know that it is, available again. If you're not able to take down the information right now that is online, that's great for you for right now. But once we have this on our YouTube channel, you'll be able to find all this information there too. I want everybody to please remember that this is an MS Views and News educational program, and we are here to provide you with educational information and resources as best we can. We hope that you do join us for our other virtual events. You could just go to our website, www.msvn.org, and look in the center column of the website where it shows all of our coming events. Actually, the April events will all be posted soon. Some of them are already there, but you could go there and check it out. Register for the ones that you want to watch. Even if you're not able to actually be in attendance that day, once you're registered for the program, you will then get an email to let you know when the program is posted to the YouTube channel. So again, we do want to thank you all for being here. I do want to thank Bree for being here, and I want to say thank you, and for you all to have a great weekend. Be well.
Thank you, Stuart.